Welcome to part 2 of our video on the sources of Catholic ethics. So let's go through each of these different sources. The first of them is the natural law. And the natural law, we've talked a bit about this already. It's our experience of right or wrong, and it comes from those inclinations that have been placed in our hearts when we were created. And this is how all societies around the world have some commonalities with their morality. Okay, so how do we interpret natural law? How do we use this as part of our moral reasoning? How do we use the wisdom that we get from that? Well, I think there are right ways to interpret this and wrong ways to interpret it. Natural law, or our experiences of morality, and should cause us to question. So a good way to think about it is that if you are suffering of pangs of conscience, of guilt, when you've cheated somebody, part of reasoning with natural law is to think, why am I feeling like this? So you want to explore it further and to see if this applies to other people. It's really using our reason along with our experiences of this is right, this is wrong. Same for positive experiences. If I feel right when I help others, you explore this further. You say, well, what does it say about what it means to be a human? Humans are made to love, perhaps. So one thing that we need to avoid is using this idea of natural law to make up our own laws or make up our own ideas of what is right or wrong. We need to really discern, is this something that is really truly part of what it is to be human, or is this just something I'm experiencing at the moment, or a group of people are experiencing, and it's not a universal thing? So it's important to really be discerning when we're looking at the natural law. Our second source is Scripture. Scripture needs to be interpreted in its context and within the context of the whole Scriptures. God didn't just give us a few verses. He gave us a whole variety of books. So an example of how not to interpret Scripture, if you hear the command not to kill, doesn't mean that we should all be vegans necessarily. We need to understand what the author was trying to say to the original audience of that book. What exactly is the author trying to get across? What do other parts of Scripture say about it? We need to be able to cross-reference it and fit it within the whole story of salvation. So that's really important. If we look at tradition's probably a harder one to think about. A lot of the time when we think of, how do I live well in this world, people will look to other saints. Now, with saints, we're not called to follow these people literally. So if you are reading the life of Mother Teresa, it does not mean that we all have to fly to Calcutta and serve the poor in Calcutta, or necessarily even serve the poor on the street. We need to then take, the inspiration that this saint offers and apply it to our own lives in our own ways. Finally, we talk about the magisterium. The magisterium is the teaching authority of the church. And again, we need to see it in context. We need to not just take a small part of it and say that this is the only thing. We need to see it within its entirety.